Hello everyone, welcome back to another session of Dark Souls PvP and another weapon showcase. This time I am using the reinforced club, and I have to say, I never really cared for this weapon much, and now, after playing around with it a little bit more, I can really understand why people love this weapon. Now, I'm not one of those people that loves it, I can take it or leave it, but it really is a pretty good weapon, and I can really see why people enjoy it. It's a fun little weapon. It weighs a total of 4 units, so that's about average for the hammer class weapons. I'm pretty sure the lightest one of the hammer class weapons is actually the regular club at 3 units, I think. But don't quote me on that, not exactly sure. Now, it has a B scaling in strength, which, you know, it's not a high scaling, it's a decent one, but it's got a pretty good amount of damage for the damage output, so it's really not that bad of a weapon. Now, for the pros and cons of it, I'd have to say it's got a pretty good amount of pros. It has it has the typical pros of a hammer class weapon, being it's got that decent R1 swing speed, it's got the ability to just eat through a shield. It just eats your stamina, it eats right through your shield. In addition to that, it also eats right through your poise, so it can stun lock really well. It's got an incredible stun lock ability, which is shared throughout the hammer class weapons. So really, that is good enough alone. That's what makes up the mace, and makes the mace a good weapon in my opinion. But in addition to that, you throw on the bleed damage of a katana, being 33 per hit and doing 1/3 of your opponent's total health. So really, this thing eats through shields even better than a regular bleeding weapon, because it does so much stamina damage and causes bleed buildup, and once you break their guard, you can actually bleed them out and break their guard in the same hit, and then you can stun lock them really easily, and it's a really brutal weapon. It really is quite effective. Just put on some heavy armor and go to town with this thing and you're all set. Like, it's really effective. So, the pros being said, there has to be some good cons to counteract them, right? Right, that's just the way it works. So the cons, in my opinion, actually do a very good job at counteracting the pros, making it a very, very well-balanced weapon. Now, the cons, I would have to say, again, are in the moveset. Now, the reason I'm saying that, actually, I love that guy's name, Unclubbable. Just like, it's like a challenge. Like, oh, really? Let's see about that. Anyway, the cons, I would have to say, are in the moveset, and they would be, if you miss, you have a whiff animation, and you have a slow recovery time if you miss. In addition to that, the R2 attacks, I don't know how many times I have missed with an R2 attack and it just left me right open for a backstab, to be kicked off a cliff, to just jump off a cliff on my own, which I have, as embarrassing as it is, I have done. It's really it's a somewhat annoying moveset to use at first and can really cause a lot of trouble. So that's really, in my opinion, one of the main cons to the weapon. Like right there, he could have just backstabbed me. It wouldn't have been a big deal. He could have just leisurely walked right around and got me. But he didn't. And he actually got a really nice parry right there. That is such a nice parry. I had to include that. That was just so cool. Just little backstep, parry, weapon switch all in one. And just, love it. Love it. But anyway, I actually get a few fights against him later on in the video, like right here, and I get my little bit of revenge. So, yeah. Where was I? I was in the cons, right? Yeah. The cons, they're really not too severe. And actually, after you do the jumping attack, you have a slower wind up for a swing that actually causes quite a big amount of damage. So I'd have to say that the moveset isn't really that big of a concern, for me at least, because I'm okay hitting someone's shield and causing the bleed to build up. I'm completely fine with that. So really, that's not that big of a deal for a con, in my opinion. In addition to that, though, in addition to the moveset cons, you also have the fact that it's easily parried, because chances are you're gonna R1 spam a little bit, because you don't want to just run up to someone and then do a jumping attack in their face, because chances are you'll just jump right past them. So really you want to be doing a lot of R1s, and that can lead you to be easily parried. So I guess you could say that's in the moveset again, but I'm considering that something else. In addition to that, you have the fact that it has a really short range. Ooh, excuse me. It's got a really short range to it, and that's not so much of a big deal because, I mean, it's a club. It's a club. It's meant to be used in really close range combat. That's just the purpose of a club. You're gonna pick up a club and you're gonna bash someone's face in with it. That's just what you would do, right? So really, I think this is a pretty well-balanced weapon as far as the pros and cons are concerned. It's a good weapon that deals a fair amount of damage. It's got some unique properties to it, and I can really see why people love this weapon. I definitely am not one of those people, though. I don't really think I'm ever going to use this thing again unless I get really tired of my Warpick or Mace or Morningstar. So, I don't know. We will see. All in all, though, I'd have to say, as I've said before, it's a really very well balanced, fairly good, fairly strong weapon. And, you know, some people love it, some people won't. I think it should be used more often. I think a lot of people would really enjoy using this thing if they just took the time to get over the fact that its R2 makes you jump, because I think that really is the main reason why people don't use it, because they see the whiff animation when they're just testing it out in the air, they see that R2 jumping attack, and they're like, ew, why would I want to use this? And, you know, for the longest time, I was missing out on this weapon. I might probably maybe use it again in the future, but at least I know now more about it. Really, it's a good weapon, and hopefully I can see it be used more in PvP. It seems like people don't really know how to fight against a club or a hammer-type weapon in general. They aren't really familiar with it. All they really think to do is stand behind a shield and parry or try and trade hits, which doesn't work in their favor because of its great stun-locking ability. Really, though, that's pretty much all I've got to say about the weapon. This is actually the last fight. Right here we can see, as I was saying, the guy was just holding up his shield and then trying to trade hits. Just didn't work. But, yeah. Now, that's one thing I wanted to mention also. Its running attack, it always seems, it's just me, I know it's just me, but I always seem to make it fall short, and it's not that big of a deal. So, to quickly recap, this weapon has the typical pros of a hammer class weapon, being good stun locking, good stamina drain, good poise drain. It has damage, you know what I mean. It has the bleed, build-up, and damage of a katana. Cons would include the whiff animation with the moveset, slow recovery if you miss, and the short range. So really, it's a fairly good weapon. It's really fun to use. It's quite enjoyable, and I hope I can see it used more often in PvP. That's all I've got to say. This is the end, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.